So today we are working on a starter, a Denso starter from a 1983 Toyota pickup truck. And it was having trouble starting. The solenoid would just click and then no effort would go into turning the engine over. And that's typically a sign that the contacts are worn out. Even though the Denso Starter solenoid repair kits are pretty easy to come by on eBay, you can get them for $10 shipped. It's such a small part. I just made it myself. So this video is going to show you how I turned a copper pipe into a starter contact and got my truck starting reliably again. Well, that wasn't what I was trying to show. Typically, it just goes tick, 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 tick. And like it always starts better the first time I start it of the day before it gets all hot. And then typically by the end of the day, I go to the grocery store or something. And I'm stuck in the parking lot. Tick, 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 turning that key over. And it can take quite a while to start it. Like, I don't know, 6 minutes. You know, enough ticking that like the muscles of my arm get tired. So anyways, I'm going to take this starter out and look at it. It appears it's most likely going to be the starter contacts, the solenoid contacts. Those get worn out over time. So I'm just going to open it up and see. The contacts are underneath this top plate here, and they're bolted to either one of these plugs. So I guess we'll get into this, see what it looks like. Alright, so we're going to take off 3 screws. Let's see how tight these are. Ugh, okay, not too bad. And look at that. Spring loaded, so it just pops it right off for you. So I guess the gasket's on that side. And then, so it makes contact on this ring. Solenoid sucks it down onto the contacts. So you can see this side's contacts are nearly gone, and this side's contacts are intact. So that means this contact is what needs to be replaced. I wonder if I have any copper that big. So I'm going to start by removing the nut and washer. This is the post that the battery connects to. That's a 12. And then this, is that a 14 again? Yeah, feels like it. I'll get this little piece of plastic insulation off. Very nice. And then alright. So the bolt is a little square head copper bolt, or brass maybe, and then onto that is the contact, and you can see how worn out this contact is. The other contact's in good shape. This one's done for. And then below that you have this little piece of plastic insulation. It's basically it's basically just a plastic spacer. I don't know how to get a good angle. And then a washer. And then we have a plastic thing with a washer and then a nut. Alright, so I'm going to take this contact off so I can run around with it. It's sort of pressed on there onto this nut. The nut has some texture to it and it's just stuck on there. I'm just going to see if I can't squeeze it and get it loose. Yeah, that works. It's not very on there. There. So now I got my contact free, and I'm just going to assemble everything back on here with minus the contact. So, alright, so there's all the parts in a row. Cool. Now this guy. So this contact is a simple enough design. It's just a 90-degree bend with a hole in it. 90-degree bend with a hole in it, and a slightly concave edge to it. Could make one of these if I can't find one. I'm gonna run to like an O'Reilly's and see if they sell contacts or not. Alright, just some quick observations. So the contact that's worn out, it's on the battery side. So I guess when it engages, the arc would jump from here to this contact, and then from there to the other contact into the starter motor to spin it. So I don't know if you can see that, but there's raised spots on here where it looks like the copper is transferring from this to this, and they're all over the place. But then I guess it would also maybe transfer some copper from this to the other contact. But so I'm going to clean that up. That's all that means. I'm going to clean that up. The other thing is I went to the auto parts store. I went to an O'Reilly's that's nearby. They sell a rebuild kit that they could, you know, order in for a starter. And they didn't pull it up and show it to me to see if it had these in it, but I assume it would. But they also sell the brushes individually and all sorts of things you can order in. Alright, so in lieu of finding a contact tonight, I'm just going to see about making my own. So my battery in my thing is dead. Micrometer. But when I measure this thing, it looks like, oops, it looks like it's just above 2 millimeters. I got 2 pieces of copper pipe of varying size and dimension. This big one might be a little over 1 millimeter, so this doubled over is probably what I need. Can't really tell how thick this one is yet, because it's got some schmoo and solder on the top. So I'm just going to cut a little strip off. I don't have a pipe cutter big enough for the other one. Well, I do, but I don't know where it is, so it doesn't do me any good. See how thick that is. This is just right under 1. I'm going to try it with this, just since I got a pipe cutter and it'll be easy. So the thickness matches pretty good. Oh my god, dogs barking. I'm just going to start by crushing it. And then I'll hammer it. Got a crushed piece of copper. Not completely flat, but let's just see. Ooh! That's, I can't see it, but, well, you can't see it, but it's exactly where it needs to be in the flattest part. Okay, that's a good start. Let me get out my hammer. Alright, so I'm going to see if I can flatten this out a bit. I got a rock hammer, you know, like a rock hammer, and this vise has a little anvil section, so okay, that feels pretty thin, or pretty even. See if I can consistently get that. Yeah, that's great. That's where it needs to be. I guess I'm going to try to fold it over in a 90 and then trim off the excess. I'm going to try to mark where I want it to fold. It doesn't have to be super perfectly exact, I don't think, but let's try. Alright, so just scratching it with a nail. I have a faint line on there. Let's square it up. Okay, go tight. Let's see what happens when I fold it. Oh yeah. That worked out. So how am I going to cut this? I don't want to be too freaking loud. Okay, I'm going to go for a hand tool. I'm going to try cutting it just a little bit longer than the other one, and then maybe grind it down into that curve that it needs. Alright, I cut it enough. I think I can pop it off. Okay. Okay, so I've transferred some semblance of the curve that these two things mate with over to the new one. And I'm just gonna grind it down a bit. See how close I can get. I'm just gonna use the bench grinder. Ooh. I'm gonna use pliers because it transfers heat real well, being copper. Okay, I'm just gonna check the fit real quick. Alright, so it appears that the 21/64 is exactly the size I want. It lets the threads pass through easily, but it'll give something for the textured part of this bolt to grab onto so I can press the new contact into place. The old contact's hole is kind of an oval shape, and I don't really want to drill out an oval, so I'm going to use its little marks, its wear marks. I don't know if there's any way to show that, but there's some scratches on it. I'm gonna use that to indicate where the center is, where I need to drill my hole. So I'm just sort of eyeballing it. I've made some scratch marks where I think I want it. There's a lot of messy scratch marks here, so hopefully I can see it properly. So my little scratch marks here are a big mess, but I think I see where I intended to drill, so I'm just gonna start right there with a small hole. Alright, so now to the next size drill bit. I'm just going up in arbitrary amounts here. We'll start in that little pilot hole. Hope that's where I wanted it. Let me just check real quick. You know, it's a little high. It's a little high, if I want to be honest. So maybe now's time to try to wallow it out. Nope, I'm just drifting sideways instead of down. Oh, the adventures of drilling holes. Precision holes. Okay, whatever. It's gonna work. So I'm gonna start this one at a slight angle. Oh, I say that. Alright, we're back in business. I'll be a little more gentle this time. Okay, well there's a hole there. You know what? That looks good. Pretty happy with where that's located. How does that? Alright, transfer most of its heat to the bench. So now, I guess that's that. Yeah, I'm just going to try cramming it on there in the vise. We'll go a little on that side, a little on that side, a little on that side. I don't know if that's doing anything. Not quite working how I thought it would to press that on there. Let me get a deep socket and just hammer it in. The plan is to, with the socket, just okay. Alright, so how did this work? We had a square thing on it with an O-ring, and then that goes into the thing and this stuff goes on it. Okay, well, since we're back here, let's go ahead and clean this up a bit. So with the file, I'm just gonna take off the worst of it. So, you know, all these places where a lot of copper got deposited. I'm just gonna get rid of it to give it a better chance of having a better contact when it reaches these spots, instead of going through the little mound like a spark plug. Maybe it'll function more evenly. I don't know, but this will take just a second, so you don't have to watch that. So I haven't expelled too much effort, but I don't know, it seems to have a low point in the center, and so it's worn out in the middle, and the edges were higher. So I don't know, I sort of did a uniform scraping on it, but that's good enough for me. Let's reinstall this stuff. Alright, I guess it's go time. Let's just set this in place first. That seems to be okay. I think once it's bolted down, it might be a little bit high. It's supposed to sit flat on the bottom. I really don't even know. Feels like I can get my nail under that one. Definitely don't want it crooked. Okay, maybe. Okay. Looks like my right angle is a little bit tight, so I'm going to bend that down just a little so it sits flat. Okay, so after just a little adjustment to make sure that my angle is more of a 90-degree angle, let's try this placement one more time. The O-ring's kind of tight. That's what holds you up. Is what if that should go on after this is in there? I'm going to just take that off for now. Yeah, that feels pretty good. So I'll put the O-ring in place, and then this thing. Okay, so the O-ring actually fits inside this insulated piece. Oh, are we looking at things? Sorry, I forgot I was supposed to work on some camera angles here. Okay, so I have the contact inside, and then this piece of plastic, it actually goes around the O-ring, and then the washer goes inside of that. I don't know if it matters where it sits. There's two flat edges on it, but I didn't see any flat edges there. And the 14mm, I guess the O-ring keeps you from over tightening this too much and breaking that plastic bit. So okay, that's pretty tight. Okay, so I'm just trying this with a flashlight. Sorry, the light's a little bit weird. There's my two contacts in there. They look like they're evenly-ish spaced. I guess my new one's a little bit closer, but in one area, but not much. Just got to see if this thing actuates smoothly or not. Yeah, that goes all the way down, and you know, seat's nice there. That light better? Nah, won't go too bright. So I think we're good. Let's assemble this thing and put it back on. Oh no, I got my hands dirty. Alright, these weren't very tight, but they're just a little bit tight, so I'll go back the way they were. Alright, so I got the starter on, and it's hooked up. Everything's hooked up. All that's left is the negative of the battery here. It's let me make sure it's in neutral. Okay. Just in case I messed up and the starter starts working. Okay, well, so far so good. So what I was thinking, you know, the reason why I brought my old truck back from the dead is, you know, my girlfriend wants to learn how to drive a manual, a standard, whatever you call it. And the only time I have successfully taught somebody was when they had a manual transmission car of their own. So my high school girlfriend, you know, her dad was like, "Oh, I'll buy you pay half of a car if you can pay half of it." And so she saved up her money working at this dry cleaner, and she and you know, she gave him money, and he went out and bought a car, and he bought a Honda Del Sol for her, you know, real cute car, but it was a manual transmission. So his scheme was to, you know, prevent her from being able to drive. So she had this car that was half her own money invested into it, all the money she had, and she wanted to be liberated from the house, right? So she was highly motivated to learn to drive. So I started taking her out, and I had a Honda CRX at the time. It was very similar, and so, you know, I showed her the basics, and then I let her practice a bunch, and then one day she you know, confronts her dad. He's like, "Hey, where's the keys to my car?" And you know, he's like, "Whatever, blah 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 blah. You don't know how to drive." And she said, "Oh yeah, I do." So anyways, and then she became excellent at it because she drove it every day. So that's why I think for my current girlfriend, I want to do an immersive experience where she drives this old hunk of shit to work. And, you know, this is not a highway truck anymore, but around town and stuff, it's good. So that way I can teach her, and she'll actually, you know, get good at it. Well, let's see if this thing works. Okay. Alright, well, since I couldn't get a good demonstration earlier of like how bad it would actually start, that might not be impressive, but I think I fixed the problem. Because the other thing, you know, someone learning to drive, you don't want a temperamental starter that leaves you where you can't crank it back up for like 5 minutes while you're stuck at an intersection or something. So, because there will be some stalling. But anyways, yeah, that's how you build a contact for your starter, apparently. Neat. Thanks for watching, and give me a thumbs up or a comment or something, and that helps with I don't know, my exposure on YouTube. I'd like to grow this thing and make a little bit more money. You know, my channel, surprisingly, it makes like $400 a month. I mean, what is that, like? I guess you'd call that like a week's wage somewhere. I'd like to turn it into more. So if these videos are useful, a thumbs up is an easy way to or a like, is that what they call it? Whatever it is, it's an easy way to support the channel. All right, you'll have a good night. Thanks.